remember back then, the junior colleges actually paid more than the state schools and the universities as far as coaches go. So it was, if you were going to go that route, you definitely had to have your master's. You couldn't even apply otherwise.
I think they pretty much still do,
Yeah,
except for a few jobs. So
yeah.
Spent over 30 years at Cal State Northridge. With all of your accolades and coaching success, were you ever given the opportunity to take a position at a different university, or did you ever seriously entertain going somewhere else?
I was asked to apply for a job, well, a head job at UCLA twice. Uh, but at that time, in both situations, I would have had to take a big pay cut to go there. And so that was not anything that I could do because I had a family. So I never even applied. Never really wanted to go anyplace else. I was very happy where I was at. I felt like we had our own niche. We got some superstars there who really competed well and who did well on the national scene. Uh, and so I liked it. And we had you had guys like Ron Alice at USC, and Ron was just so supportive. He'd been at Long Beach State. He knew what uh, the pluses and the minuses were of being at a state school, and he
mhm.
recognized that. But he would be supportive of our program because we really weren't competing for the same athletes, and he wanted the best for us. So when you have the support of even some of your other coaches, and you know you're in a good position, I also had a great uh, athletic director through the last part of my career in Dick Dull,
Mhm.
who just supported track and field. Uh, because of the political involvement, we were able to host the NC2A Western Regionals in 2004. Dick Dull was responsible for getting a new track for us. We needed a new track for that event. He sold it to the upper level administration. We received a new track, and we had over 5,500 people there at that meet.
Mhm.
And we had several of the vice presidents were out to that meet. I'm still in touch with a couple of those guys. And they go back and they talk about that, how that was such a turning point for the whole school to recognize that even though we weren't SC or UCLA, here we are, we're hosting that meet and they're not. And we were the
Yeah.
first small school, quote, quote, small school to host a Western regional or any type of regional in the United States. So there was a lot of, shall we say, politics involved in that. Um, People, again, bought in, they saw the vision. Uh,
Mhm.
they came back, we resurfaced the track because we got the 2008 Western Regional also. So that was kind of like two of the big highlights of the coaching career. I didn't like the work necessarily it went
Yeah.
involved with coach, with putting those on, but that was huge. It was huge for the community. It was huge for the school, and it was huge for our athletes. And I think that when you have that type of presence and people recognize that the school really backs your program, that was another reason why it was fairly, I wouldn't say easy, but we got a lot of athletes came to Northridge because of that.
The other thing you said, a pay cut. You said, like UCLA. Talk to people about that because I've said to people, um, the junior colleges, just for coaches out there who are trying to get into collegiate coaching or athletes maybe looking at it, the junior colleges, how that's worked, at least I've seen it from the outside looking in and talking to coaches there is, you pretty much have to have a master's, you get in, but you get tenure and those positions pay pretty well. So coaches don't leave. After a while, you're taught at the junior college, you're actually taught to teach at classes, and then you're hired to coach. But coaches are retired from coaching and still just teach classes and stay forever. But at the 4-year level, I think there's misconceptions, especially during that time period, like USC or UCLA was paying more than Northridge. And I think it wasn't because you had a pretty good deal. And I remember there were guys like Sackett at Cal Poly Pomona. They were D2. And Sackett would say, I couldn't have left Pomona. Everywhere would have been a pay cut. But the perception is, oh, you make more at these big schools, and at least at the time, it was not.
Well, that was before the Pac-12 had that big TV contract that
Oh
they
yeah,
got
with the,
4 or 5 years ago. And so back then, both the Berkeley position and the UCLA position, the two Pac-12 schools within the conference, both the UC schools, they were actually had the two lowest paying positions in the Pac-12 or Pac-10 back then is what it was. And so Northridge, Pomona, if you did the right politics at the right time with your contract, you could end up moving into a position where you were making enough money that to go someplace else would have been a significant pay cut. In this instance, it was over a $30,000 pay cut for me to go to UCLA. So there wasn't even
you're not even gonna apply for that.
of wanting to make that move or anything else like that. Plus, I was very happy where I'm at. I think a lot of with the new TV contract, all the coaches' salaries have gone up appreciably within the now the Pac-12, and they're paid a lot more than they used to be paid. And there probably would be a pay raise now to go from a state school into like a Pac-12 school or something like that. I think what people don't realize is that each coach has a contract, and it's how you structure that contract. And I was able to get contracts from Ron Mann. I was able to get contracts from the Arizona State coach. I was able to get contracts from people all over the country because of my political ties. They would send me their contracts, and I took different provisions out of each contract that I felt could apply to me and to my Northridge situation. And that's what I pushed for, and that's what I was able to get, which at that point included bonuses, etc. So it was a great contract. It was something I was able to get a multi-year contract. Most coaches don't get multi-year contracts, but I was able to negotiate. And you and I have talked about this. You and I talked about this for years and years. We talked about two things: getting involved politically and what it means, and you did. We talked about negotiating your contracts, and you pushed hard to get some. Sometimes you got denied and pushed back on. Sometimes some of the things I wanted, I got denied and pushed back on. But as a coach, the only person really looking out for you in the situation is you. So you have to push. You have to ask for everything that you want, and then you negotiate. And they say, well, we can't give you this. I said, well, then I'll take that. But you have to know your cards. You have to know what you're putting on the table. So it's just not like walking in there and say, I want another 1-year contract or something.